You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos, part of the Stake in the Plains Content Network, and the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast feed. Just a couple of casino caballeros talking Texas Tech, betting on the Big 12 and beyond. Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio.
Ooh, welcome to the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson. We are live from the Cardinal Sports Center studio. If you need to gear up for soccer games at the John Walker or the final home game of the year at Texas Tech for football, or if you geared up earlier this week for some Texas Tech baseball and the red-black scrimmages, then I bet you did at Cardinal Sports Center. Cardinal Sports Center is the place to gear up for everything you need to gear up for. Whether it was that awesome World Series victory for the Texas Rangers, I'll never stop giving them credit. Or if it's any Texas Tech event or just a little league event that your kid is in, whatever you need to do, you can gear up at Cardinal Sports. MyCardinalSports.com or live and in person right outside the loop on Slide Road. Kyle, my man, how you doing?
I am good because check out this shirt. That is Lubbock's native son, Buddy Holly, giving a guns up. Don't want to flash too much here, but it says Tejas Tech at the bottom. So if you want a shirt of Buddy Holly doing a guns up that says Tejas Tech, you can find that at Cardinal Sports Center. They just struck some kind of a deal with sideline provisions, which has always had cool hats and polos and other stuff. And so they have a corner in the store now that's sideline provisions gear on top of everything else they've got. So it's good stuff.
Need to get a collab going.
Yeah. They've got a Willie Nelson one. I think they got Tupac and Biggie. They've got neon signs. Some cool stuff in the sideline provisions corner out there.
Very nice. Let's see. I was wondering what the shirt was because I just saw the black square at the top, just on this angle. I didn't want to ask, but interesting. I thought it was like a blackout tee or something. But Buddy Holly, that's legit. With the glasses, the guns up. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful sight. Lubbock High's own, by the way. Hey, shout out to Lubbock High. Lubbock High wrestling season has started. My nephew's 1 win away from 100 career wins.
Oh, let's go.
So his next meet, he'll get 100 wins. We got some celebratory shirts coming down. So we'll give him some surprises once he gets his 100th win.
I wish I had won anything 100 times in my life, but I don't think I have.
No, I certainly haven't. Yeah.
I was even looking, this is like so sad and pathetic. I've been in the same fantasy football league with a group of guys since 2006.
Oh, wow.
So this is year 18.
Wow.
The first 2 years, I think, maybe 3 years, we were on a different app. But since like 2009, we've been on the ESPN app. And it like tracks your all-time league history and everything. And I think I saw on there that I'm like 84-57 lifetime in fantasy football. So I can't even get 100 wins in a made-up thing in like 15 years. And your nephew's about to have 100 wins in just one high school career. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he's 119. Or 99 and 19. So
yeah.
Had a big year last year.
Good for him, man.
Shout out to Keegan.
That's awesome.
He'll never hear this, but shout out to him. All right, let's get right into UCF. I noticed you didn't do the what songs from Orlando bit on Twitter this week. I think you need to because I think we should just do Disney songs. And that would be a pretty good we could just talk about Disney songs.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We should yeah, you're right. I did not get around to that. And we could just skip and like frame the question different how we normally frame it. Because it's usually like, what is your favorite song that mentions the state of Kansas or by a musician from the state of Kansas or, whoever we're playing that week. But we used to be like, hey, what's your favorite Disney soundtrack? And then we won't even leave room for people to name a musician from Florida or anything. It'll just be Disney musicals on the playlist.
What's your favorite Disney music?
Oh shoot, man. It's a good question.
You strike me as a big Disney music guy.
I am not. I feel like when my kids are older, I'll be more opinionated on that. But it's been so long for me, and I don't remember really liking anything even when I was a little kid. So I don't know. I'll tell you after we make the playlist and I listen to some of it.
I grew up with a bunch of movies like that I would just watch religiously for sections of my life. For a big section, it was like Cool Runnings. I ran through a bunch of Cool Runnings VHSs. But in my early years, my favorite movie was Cinderella because I liked the rats, the mice.
Yeah.
I liked Les Gus. So, but I couldn't. I don't know if I could name a song right now that I just really like. You know, a song that gets stuck in my head as an earworm every once in a while is a Little Mermaid song. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? I'm not going to sing too much because YouTube will copyright us. But
Is this is probably a really stupid question. Is Wizard of Oz Disney?
I don't think so.
Okay. I like the Lollipop Guild song from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The little short kings.
Yeah.
We represent the Lollipop Guild.
The Lollipop Guild.
Yeah, I love that song.
That's a good one. The entire Tarzan soundtrack.
Okay, Phil Collins. Yeah, that's
Crash in the Camp. Rock-a-Doodle-Doo. I have no idea. Oh, Nightmarish is in. We're talking.
What's
Disney.
up, Nightmarish?
They're in. UCF fans. They travel when you come in.
Yeah, when we had Brandon Helwig on,
Yeah,
he had like 50 YouTube commenters with him.
Yeah,
which is great.
Great for the brand. All right, let's move on. UCF coming in. They just hammered Oklahoma State. Does that UCF show up, or does another UCF show up? Maybe, let's say, the team that lost to Baylor after being up 35 or whatever it was, or a team that hung tight with Oklahoma on the road. What UCF shows up this weekend?
I reject the premise of the question, and here's why.
Okay.
I think if you showed me the 14-team Big 12 standings, there is not a team with a greater discrepancy between their conference record and how good or bad they actually are than UCF. They're 2-5 down there with, okay, I didn't realize this. A bunch of teams are 2-5. TCU, Houston, Baylor, BYU, UCF are all 2-5.
Okay, but they deserve to be.
Yeah, I think Houston. So, like, if I was power ranking those, BYU and Baylor, I would say are like the two worst teams of that bunch. I don't think TCU is maybe as bad as that record says. Houston's probably in between, like TCU and Baylor. I know they beat Baylor head to head, and TCU beat Houston, so that makes total sense. UCF is better than all of them, in my opinion. I know they lost to Baylor, but there's some context there. Like, they were up by 28 points, and yeah, they still lost the game, and that matters. But, like, I don't know, man. You look at some of their games and their stats, it's like let's take out the 42-point win over Oklahoma State, and we'll circle back to that later. 2-point loss in Norman. Kansas ran all over them. Like, you have to consider that. They were in the game with Kansas State on the road in Manhattan until, like, probably at least late third quarter, if I remember right, and that was with their backup quarterback. So, I don't know. And some of the stats we'll go over in a little bit. I think, like, if you blindfold me and said, hey, this team is X in this statistical category, X in that statistical category, I would not guess, A, that they were worse off than Tech in the Big 12 standings, but B, that they're like 2 full games behind Tech in the Big 12 standings. So for a 2-5 team, I'm actually like pretty worried. I think they're way better than their record shows.
But would you say they've been inconsistent this year?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Well, then why are you dismissing the concept of my question? Because that's what I was asking.
Well, I guess the part that I reject is that like there's this bad UCF team out there that might show up. I don't really concede that exists. I think they're pretty good. I think they just happened to collapse against Baylor, and then came out on the short end of the stick against Oklahoma. Like those two results alone, if they hold on to a 28-point lead and they beat OU and Norman, what's the narrative about this UCF team?
Fair.
They'd have the same conference record as you. They'd have wins over both schools from the state of Oklahoma, which both of them are vying for the Big 12 championship, which we'll get into that later as well. So yeah, I think they're like a lot better than their record shows, and I think that we put too much attention sometimes on teams that you're like, oh, they're 6-1, but they haven't beaten anybody yet. They're not as good as their record shows, and like, I don't know, Tech fans we dunked on ourselves like, oh, we're the best 3-5 team in the country, and like we probably were the best 3-5 team in the country back when we were 3-5. But I think UCF is better than their record shows, is all I'm trying to say.
I think that makes sense. And I think UCF, you could probably argue that they should be in the top half of the Big 12, or right there on the cusp, right there with Texas Tech, who's now 5-5. I think they're arguably right there. I think that's the reason why it's a 3-point spread at home for Texas Tech, which generally allows for a 3-point kind of wiggle room, right? I will say somebody's commenting here, John Rice Plumlee was hurt for the start of conference play. He's healthy now. If you look at the stats, just blind box score stat looking, Timmy McClain and John Rice Plumlee are not much different. In fact, you could argue box score watching that Timmy McClain was more efficient. So I don't know how much that hurt them, but certainly John Rice Plumlee is their guy, and he's the guy that presents some problems for Texas Tech in that he is a running quarterback, or a quarterback who can run. I don't want to dismiss his arm, and that has presented problems for Texas Tech on third down.
Yeah, it certainly has. He's an incredible athlete. He played quarterback and wide receiver at Ole Miss. He's a good baseball player. And like you said, he can run, he can throw. He's a good athlete. I'll frame it to you another way on how good I think UCF is relative to their record. Which position group on UCF's roster versus Texas Tech's roster do you look at and say, like, you're 100% certain that Texas Tech has a better position group compared to UCF's?
Defensive tackle.
That would be answer number one for me as well. And then, like, after that, I'm not sure. Like, you could certainly argue. I'm not saying that they're better at every single position group. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are like, well, Taj, like, running back. Okay, their running back, RJ Harvey, is pretty damn good too. Like, he's a top 3 running back in the conference with Ollie Gordon, Jonathan Brooks, Taj Brooks. Like, he's, in my opinion, right in that conversation. He has over 1,000 yards on only 170 carries. He's averaging 6.4, and he has 12 touchdowns. So, like, yeah, Texas Tech's running back is really good too. But I feel like UCF matches up really well there. They've got receivers, big play receivers. They've got 2 defensive ends with, I think, 6.5 sacks each. Your sack leader has 3.5. So, like, okay, like Rabbit, I'm sure in a 4 or 5 man secondary, Rabbit would make the cut if you combine both rosters. But that's just what I'm trying to get at is, like, I don't see you're just going to totally overmatch them at this position group or that position group. I think they stack up pretty well with Texas Tech, if not better.
I think I would argue that it is the depth that maybe has gotten UCF into trouble. I think their frontline talent is as good as most everyone else in the Big 12, but I don't think they have the depth yet coming from the AAC. I think they will get there. Their recruiting has gone very well in year one, but I think that's the difference. But I don't know that Texas Tech has the depth right now, coming out of the Matt Wells era and with the injuries you've had sustained this year, even though, you know, you're finally healthy at linebacker, and that really showed last week against Kansas.
Yeah, I think you could point to that. I don't think they faded against OU. Like, that was a close game, pretty much start to finish. But, like, not being able to close it out in the last couple minutes, is that part of it? Is the Baylor collapse partly depth related? I don't know. They do seem kind of like a boom or bust type offense to me. Like it's a lot of big plays, and of course you stack enough of those, you're going to be really successful. And that's evident in like both quarterbacks who have played this year, Plumlee and McClain. Both have way more yards per attempt than Shuck or Morton. But that's not what your offense is designed to do. Like, you don't attack people down the field. You don't have explosive receivers making plays 20, 30 yards down the field. They do. And, like, the nature of that is it's probably not able to be replicated as often as, a 5-yard hitch or whatever. But when they do hit, like, it's extremely costly. So, and same with their running back. Like, 170 carries isn't insane volume. I guess that works out to exactly 17 per game. That's a healthy dosage, but it's not like a workhorse kind of 25 plus carries per game. So anyway, I think they've got a really big play offense, and that's kind of been Gus Malzahn's identity as a head coach. And I think his presence in the Big 12 is a lot of fun. I know UCF fans were kind of frustrated earlier in the season when before they kind of turned the corner the last couple weeks, but I think he'll get it right at UCF, and I think he'll be a good coach and have them in a good position to like compete, certainly in the top half of the conference, pretty consistently going forward.
Do you think that their big play offense matches up with what Texas Tech wants to do on defense? Because they seem to limit big plays fairly well. You had one big play against Kansas.
Yeah.
BYU didn't strike any against you.
It really even
say
Bo Nix, like one big play on that post route early in the game. But like the flip side of that coin is you are a pretty aggressive defense, and like some teams have made you pay when you brought extra pass rushers and didn't get home, which is unfortunately very often.
Yeah.
But like having said that, I think a lot of UCF's numbers pretty closely mirror Kansas's on offense. Like it's run heavy, it's explosive plays. They've got playmakers everywhere. They've got an athletic quarterback. And I know Jason Bean went down after the first quarter, but even in his 3 or 4 drives, you had him pretty well bottled up. So I don't know, like maybe you do match up well with that kind of offense if you sort of adjust your play style a little bit. On that note, I will say I'm curious how often we play with a star on the field with if Tyler Owens can't go, and I think he's like questionable or day-to-day or whatever the tag is. Do they trust Brendan Jordan to get 100% of the snaps at star, or will they just replace that position with an extra linebacker and say, hey, UCF is going to run it 2/3 of the time on us anyway? And UCF is really good at running the ball. I think they're like top 10 nationally in yards per carry as a team. So did you say we're going to commit to the run, we're going to make Plumlee beat us with his arm, or do you roll out your typical personnel there? I think you're certainly better equipped to stop the run if you have an extra linebacker in place of a true freshman playing the star role. Now, that could leave you vulnerable to some big pass plays, but I think that's a trade-off worth kind of exploring.
Do you unleash Sensei?
Maybe. You're not going to burn his red shirt.
We're in the window.
Does he play star?
No, he plays inside linebacker, but I think in that kind of role that you're talking about, that you kind of play him at the star position against the run. He's not what you've typically done to make it a 5-man front like Bryce Ramirez playing the star as he did against Wyoming. But I think it fits what you're talking about. Even Dingle, if he hasn't played in his 4 yet. I think they might have shut him down, though.
Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm talking about is against Wyoming when they were using like double tight end. You subbed out, I think Brendan Jordan was playing star most of that game instead of Baskerville. And you just brought in like Bryce Ramirez and you kind of like shifted. You had your 2 defensive tackles and then you just like put another end man on the line of scrimmage, walk your outside linebackers like Martinez or Bryce Ramirez down, and you call it a 3-4 with the ends walk down or a 5-2. But if they're going to run it on like 2/3 of their plays, I mean, to me, having an extra linebacker out there assigned to defending the quarterback run or just to kind of like clog the box and make them throw.
Yeah.
is worth it in my opinion.
Did you see Matt LaFleur this week hammering the reporter for calling it a 2-down lineman set?
No.
He was like, our linebackers, our defensive ends in that set, in nickel, it's a 4-man front because the outside linebackers are considered. It's like, yeah, but they're not down.
Yeah, it's all semantics. Yeah, it's a 4-man front, but that doesn't mean you have 4 down linemen.
Matt LaFleur was just hammering this guy. And you look at a screenshot of the defense, and they're like way outside. And so it truly is like a 3-man box.
Yeah.
And they're just getting gashed on the run. Anyways, sorry, that just came to mind when you said that.
Yeah.
Anyways, what other numbers jump out at you off the page when you're looking at UCF?
Yeah, let me pull them up. Let's see. They are 8th in total offense yards per game, which I don't really like per game stuff because it doesn't adjust for tempo and plays and everything. They're 6th in yards per play. They're 12th in third down conversion.
This is nationally?
Yes.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're top 8 in yards per game, top 6 in yards per play, 12th in third down conversion rate, which is a super important metric. Texas Tech's defense, 96th best at getting off the field on third down. So that's one where I'm worried.
Wow. That's a surprising stat. I would have pegged the team as better than that.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to me as well. So that's obviously going to be huge. And, as good as they are running the ball, and with their quarterback being a run threat, I think that puts you in like a really difficult spot to defend any third and short. I think UCF just sort of has numbers on you in that scenario. Now, one thing I will say about UCF's offense that's maybe a weak point, the yardage totals and averages are way better than their point averages, which to me is always an indicator of we get down the field and then we can't score, or we can't score as much as we would like to. They are 60th in red zone scoring percentage, but that's a weakness of Texas Tech's 112th in opponent red zone scoring allowed. Now, you did clean that up against Kansas. I don't think you allowed a score in the red zone until the field goal at the very end of the game. So are you turning a corner? Did you get a little lucky? I don't know. But that seems like one of the few weak points of UCF's offense is capitalizing in the red zone. So maybe that's another key to the game. Once you get down there, can you hold them to 3 or nothing?
To me, that just means that they score often from outside the red zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be that as well.
If they're one of the top scoring offenses in the Big 12, over 30 a game, they're scoring somehow. So they're just scoring on big plays too.
Yeah. Now, I do think that their defense can be had. They're 103rd in yards per game surrendered at 420. Their third down defense is about as bad as their third down offense is good. 117th nationally in getting off the field. So both teams kind of stink at that. But, Texas Tech's offense is not a big play. Like, it's dependent on staying on the field, getting multiple first downs. So maybe you can lean on that a little bit. They're 82nd in getting off the field on fourth down. Obviously, Tech is very aggressive in those spots. So maybe this is a team that you're able to sustain a lot of drives against if you can get into third and fourth and manageable. Texas Tech 17th best nationally in fourth down conversion rate on offense. So running the ball specifically, they are third nationally in yards per rush. This is FBS on FBS competition only, 5.8 yards per rush.
Wow.
And third best also in rush yards per game against FBS competition. So that's clearly what they want to do first and foremost. RJ Harvey ran all over Oklahoma State. That's part of what contributed to the 45-3 final score there. Now, I think your run defense has been like decent, like you're 50th, 60th in a lot of these run defense metrics. Is that good enough to slow down an elite rush offense? We'll see. Like, I don't feel like when I watch Texas Tech defense, that's a real weak point where, like, everybody gashes us on the ground. Like, you've held some good running backs to, pretty manageable statistical outputs.
Yeah.
UCF's rush defense, they allow 5 yards per rush, and that is 116th best in the country. So they're not good at defending the run. And, of course, Texas Tech. So this doesn't jump off the page at you. Texas Tech 57th nationally in yards per rush. But Taj Brooks is over 5 himself. So Taj Brooks, as an individual ball carrier, is actually more yards per carry than UCF's team average allowed.
And in the last 6 weeks, he's been the only ball carrier, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's where, kind of going back to our Kansas recap, we talked about you need to get other people involved. Taj Brooks, very much a kind of between the tackles runner. I want him to get every bit of 25 carries again, but you need Valdez, you need Martinez. I don't think we're going to do any quarterback run game. But like Kansas clearly had you figured out, and or Taj was a little bit gassed. And so I don't want you to bang your head against the wall in the fourth quarter and just hand it off to Taj up the gut. And UCF, even though they're maybe not a great team run defense, is able to bottle him up. So would like to see some creativity in the run game and getting it to more guys than just Taj. But yeah, he needs to get 25 plus himself.
I want pass play in the flats to Teeter. I want another one to Sparkman. And I want 3 running backs with 5 or more carries. That's my wish list.
Yeah, how do we not have a play action bootleg?
Yeah.
I know we're in the gun, so it might look a little different.
Yeah,
how do we not have
move the pocket all the time? Just move it with the play action involved.
That's in every single playbook is run fake one way, one shallow route to the flats, and one 10 or 15 yards down the field deeper than that. It's like either guy or tuck it and run.
Yeah. It seems like every offense in America, too, is starting to run the GT play action, where you GT to the left, roll to the right, and hit some kind of flag or flat route or drag to the right.
Yeah.
Just move it, just enough play action to move the linebackers of the defensive end. Now, if he reads it, you just have to throw it away. But as much as you run the ball, I'm sure they'll bite the first time.
Right. And also, as much as you either motion the tight end across the formation or pull the tight end with the tackle, same deal. Just let him keep running into the flats, do the same exact run fake action, and think it'll be there. And if it's not, you remember Taj's last 10 carries, it was 0, 0, 0, 2, 1, 0 yards.
Yeah.
You're not going to do worse than that by throwing the ball away. So if it's not there, at least you're keeping them honest and calling something a little bit different.
Mike says outside zone reads has been the kryptonite for UCF's defense this year. Well, good for you because we only run the inside zone.
We're not running any zone read. We're not running the quarterback at all. We have one. Well, I guess we have 2 quarterbacks. The guy who's going to be playing that already has a sprained shoulder, backup as a true freshman. So, but
ISOing on a linebacker, you're probably not going to see much of that either because we don't use the middle of the field.
Tharp is allegedly coming back, though. That's what Joey said in the press conference. Maybe we've got a little more creativity in us when Tharp is on the field.
Well, since Kitley is watching this, maybe he'll notice Mike's comments and target the inside of the field, in between the hashes.
If the first play of the game is another swing pass or that sideline pass, I'm
first play of the second half.
I'm leaving.
Taj gets 25 for 107 in the first. Oh, that was nasty. In the first half, and then you run a sideline pass right to open the half. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Hey, you know what is awesome, though?
I could guess.
That's right. The best barbecue in West Texas out at Rehino Barbecue. If any of you UCF fans are making the trip and you're wondering what is there to do, what is there to eat in Lubbock, you have to try Rehino Barbecue while you're here. It is the epitome of West Texas cuisine. It's the gold standard. And if you want, they probably can't do this if they're coming all the way from Florida. I was going to say, you could take some home with you for Thanksgiving. That's what I'm doing. We're buying one of the family platters. and we're doing Rahino barbecue for Thanksgiving dinner this year. Hit them up on social at Rahino BBQ. Order ahead, order online at RahinoBBQ.com. Top 50 barbecue joint, according to Texas Monthly, but number one in our hearts.
Number one in our hearts, certainly. The Thanksgiving meal, that's got to be the play if you're local.
They've got a lot of options. They've got whole turkeys, they've got whole hams, and then what we're doing is we're getting a pound of like 4 different kinds of brisket, turkey, sausage. So, and they got the sides as well if you want to cheat a little bit and you don't want to cook 6 or 7 sides yourself, order a couple from Rahino.
It's the play. It's the play, man. Any final thoughts on this game before we start making some picks? Kyle.
Oh, yeah, I'm scared.
Define scared. Like a Kansas State scared where it's just kind of it feels inevitable, or a Kansas scared where you feel like you should be able to beat them, but there are some matchup problems that you think might hit you.
Yeah, maybe kind of both. I think that I said this before the Kansas game, and I predicted a loss, but I was like, I can see a path to victory. I think we have a 40 or 45% chance to win the game. Same way this time, but opposite. I think we have a 50 or 55% chance to win the game. But I can also see, like, if this goes horribly wrong and UCF hangs 42 on us, I'm not going to be like, well, where did that come from? I'll be like, I told you, like, they can do it. They have 2 receivers averaging more than 20 yards per reception. I think Plumlee is right at like 10 yards per attempt, not completion, attempt. We're hovering at like 6.5.
Yeah.
Like
that's sideline throws.
Yeah. I mean, that's like 9 is elite. 9 is like Michael Penix level, like Gabriel Douglas, Dylan Gabriel. Who's Gabriel Douglas? Is that like an NFL player? Where did that come from?
I do not know that name.
That's good. To me, like 7.5 is like kind of average. So, and yeah, RJ Harvey is that dude. I mean, he destroyed Oklahoma State. So it's just that. It's like that I can see a way that this unfolds. It goes horribly wrong for us. But, then I also look at common opponents. Like you beat Baylor by 25, they lost to Baylor. You beat Baylor on the road, they lost to Baylor at home. Kansas State, they were much more competitive with Kansas State than you were. I'd say that. The final score against Kansas State was bad. But you were in it. I think you had a lead in the third quarter.
Yeah.
After Jake Strong came in. Who else is a common opponent? Not the 2 Oklahoma schools. Kansas, they got destroyed by Kansas. Here's where I think like it could also go horribly wrong for UCF. And I forgot to bring this up. This is UCF against primary ball carriers against their last several opponents. We'll throw out Oklahoma State for now because they dominated that game. There's bad weather, all that. Cincinnati, who is not good. Cincinnati's lead back had 19 carries for 114 yards, 6 yards per carry. Their next lead back, 8 carries, 113 yards, 14.1 yards per carry. So Cincinnati kind of gashed them with their top 2 ball carriers.
I'd love that. I wish that would be us.
West Virginia, C.J. Donaldson, 17 carries, 121 yards, 7.1 a pop. Behind him was Jaheim White, 9 carries, 85 yards, 9.5 a pop.
Man, that's nice sounding.
Oklahoma was the week before that. Marcus Major, 18 for 82. That's 4.5 a pop. Nothing crazy there. Gavin Sawchuk, 10 carries, 63 yards, 6.3 a pop. So they did a little bit better against OU, but even that, like, you put those guys together, it's 5 yards per carry. This is the fun one that I'm like, I look at this one and I go, if Cam Valdez wants to have his breakout career game and he wants to tote the rock 15 times, it needs to be this one. Kansas, Devin Neal, 12 carries, 154 yards, 12.8 yards per carry. Daniel Highshaw, 19 carries, 134 yards, 7 yards per carry. Dylan McDuffie, 13 carries, 91 yards, 7 yards per carry. Lawrence Arnold, a receiver, carried once for 10 yards, 10 yards per carry. So I look at that and I go, okay, Tosh can get 5.5. Valdez, if he breaks a long one, like who knows what his average could be? It's probably not going to be at the same volume. So they've had a rough time trying to stop primary ball carriers is what I'm getting at. And clearly that's how Texas Tech has won some of the games that they have won. I mean, Baylor, Houston, TCU, all of that, I feel like was establishing the run early, leaning into that. And we're going to have to do it again against this defense if we want a shot. So I guess that's my final thought. It's like, if you showed me the final box score, I feel like I'd have a pretty good guess who won. But I could see really either offense kind of going off a little bit. I mean, I know our passing offense is limited, but it would not surprise me if Taj was like 28 for 150 or something when this is all said and done.
Unlimited. Yeah, the UCF commenters in the comment section are really down on the linebackers. So that sounds like a plan to me.
Taj Brooks
leads
the country in broken tackles.
Yes, he does.
So I hope that he has a fun Saturday against the UCF linebackers.
All right. Speaking of Saturdays, you ready to make some picks?
Let's do it.
Oklahoma at BYU, 24.5. Opened at 20.
Usually these big numbers scare me just because of the garbage time element. You go, okay, this team could dominate the entire game, and then like BYU gets 10 points in the fourth quarter that don't matter. I don't know if BYU can score a garbage time touchdown. Like their offense is just horrendous. 10 a.m. local time kickoff makes me a little bit like, does OU come out sleepy?
Yeah, which is hilarious.
But give me the Sooners. And that we don't need to kick off 10 a.m. Mountain Time ever. Just make that another after dark game.
Is that really just an FU to Oklahoma?
Well, they don't like playing at 11 a.m., so maybe they'll like 10
they're
a.m.
leaving, allegedly. That's what Oklahoma fans said. All we wanted to do was play in the afternoon. One game. All right, well, here's a 10 a.m. game. I'll take Oklahoma as well. Minus 24 is outrageous, but
it'll be noon in the SEC East for the Sooners, so we'll call it an afternoon game.
And let's call it. I mean, they could score 31 and cover, I think.
Oh yeah,
the total's 56.
Yeah, like, I mean, do you see BYU scoring 17?
No,
I don't either. Because like 41-17 would be right near the total and the spread, and I don't think they'll score 17.
All right, Cincinnati, West Virginia minus 6.5. That's where it opened. This game's at 1:30.
Some weird kickoff times this weekend.
11. This is Central Time. 11, 1:30, 2:30, 3, 4, 6, 7.
Sounds made up.
It does.
Anything can happen in a rivalry game like this, the battle for the 38th parallel.
39th?
One or the other. Yeah, they're at basically the same latitude. Give me, I guess I'll go with the ears.
Yeah. Cincinnati got theirs last week, right?
Yes, against Houston.
All right. There you go. Give me West Virginia at home. West Virginia, by the way, in the market for Jimbo.
They want Jimbo. Their fans want Jimbo.
If Neil Brown goes 8-4 and gets fired for Jimbo, it'll be the most West Virginia thing of all time.
I can't tell you how worried I would be to hire a guy who has $75 million coming to him from his last employer.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you really think he's going to go grind on the recruiting trail?
No chance.
Like, I feel like that is not talked about enough. I mean, there are people assuming that, like, I saw this tweet out there that A&M should just offer Kirby Smart $20 million a year. And if he doesn't do it, then like A&M boosters will know that it just can't be done. Like, you can't offer enough money to get the best coach in college football.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, if you pay Jimbo $150 million guaranteed for like no matter what, like he's just going to kind of rest on his laurels and not try that hard. But imagine getting that like on unemployment, basically. And then another employer calls and is like, do you want to come work for us? I'd be like, I mean, I'll show up. Like, you can pay me if you want, but like, I'm not motivated at all.
Oh, man.
It'd have to be like a strictly incentives-based contract. Like, Jimbo, you will not make a dime from West Virginia unless you have a top 30 recruiting class. But even then, he's gonna have $7.5 million a year coming to him from A&M. Like, he doesn't care if West Virginia doesn't pay him.
Yeah, I agree with the comments that he'll go be an analyst, but it would just be funny to happen.
I'll say this: last year, when Mike Elko had Duke at 9-4, I said West Virginia should do it, and now Elko's going to get a better job than West Virginia. So I see Jamie Chadwell. That's another one that I think would make sense. I wonder if they would go get NC State's defensive coordinator Tony Gibson. He was DC at West Virginia for a while.
Oh, we haven't fired Neil Brown yet.
No. And then Jimbo and Rich Rod are there too if they fire Neil. I've seen some Rich Rod. They want Rich Rod baby. Back. That would be fun.
At White days.
That would be fun.
What do you think about Jacksonville State and James Madison playing a de facto bowl since they're both banned?
Do it.
Just play on Christmas Eve. Meet in Charlotte. Play when the Panthers aren't playing. Play a game.
Yeah, I say do it.
I mean, why just call it a scrimmage? Get some NIL boosters to
a charity game.
Make it a charity game.
A streaming partner. A bunch of college football fans, just out of spite for the NCAA's ruling there, would do like a pay-per-view or something. They would pay $5 to watch that game to support those programs.
Oh, yeah. All right. Baylor TCU. The Bluebonnet battle. You thought I was joking on Gauchos After Dark. That is a real thing. We saw it come to. Did you see the trophy?
Yes.
It's like a giant coin with Bluebonnets painted on it.
Did you see the back? It has like slots. It looks like a shield. Like you could put your arm through it. And so stupid. Y'all played each other for 120 years.
Yeah.
And everybody.
Without a name.
The rivalry.
Well, that was like colloquially, not like on a trophy.
Yeah, but that's just stupid. That'd be like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State being like, it's not Bedlam anymore. It's the Prairie Shootout. We'd all be like, what?
Sponsored by Hobby Lobby. Some 18-year-old kid was offended by rivalry, and the student governments got together.
I can't wait to gripe to my grandkids watching Big 12 football 50 years from now. Back in my day, we called this the rivalry.
Yeah. And they tackled. Now they have flags.
And we liked it.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a thought? -13 for TCU?
It's a lot of points for a crappy team, but Baylor sucks.
Is Chandler Morris back?
Like normally I'd be like, well, rivalry game. The underdog might but the way Dave Aranda has described his own locker room, defeated.
Well, we've heard Kansas State describe TCU as quitters.
Yeah, I won't touch this. I'll pick Baylor. I don't know.
Take the under at 58.5.
Give me TCU. TCU technically can still make a bowl game.
Okay.
It's a rivalry. Like
they got to win out.
Yeah, they might not achieve anything else this year, so maybe they're like, oh, at least we'll beat Baylor. Maybe they have more to play for. So TCU.
Finish with OU. Almost beat Texas. Oklahoma State, Houston. Oklahoma State on the road -7. Is this a pissed off Oklahoma State game?
Or is this Oklahoma State was never that good to begin with game?
People are saying. The Alan Bowman game.
But it's also like, hey, they beat OU, they beat Kansas, they beat Kansas State.
Hey, this is the former Texas Tech quarterback game.
And then they lost to UCF by 42 points. I don't think I trust Dana. I don't think I trust that offense. Oklahoma State's defense is pretty good. I know UCF torched them. But y'all say the Pokes bounce back and try to stay in this Big 12 tiebreaker that they're currently in.
this would be a classic Dana Holgerson game to win. But I think since they got housed last week, they'll come back and cover against Houston. So I'll go Oklahoma State -7. We'll skip the 4 o'clock game for now. Kansas State, Kansas, the Sunflower Showdown. Now, this is a flower game I can get behind. Opened at 6.5. It's moved to 8.5. Kansas State's favor. Top 25 matchup, 25 against 16.
Do we have an update on Jason Bean?
I've not seen one. I've not been too keen on that.
I'll go Emaw just because if Bean doesn't play, I think they're pretty limited. And Kansas's offense is what makes them good. Like, their defense isn't really what pays the bills. Kansas State, I know they have multiple losses, all of them competitive games to good teams away from home. So is this in Lawrence?
2 hours ago, Lance Leipold on Jason Bean. He practiced some today. He's definitely in a better spot than he was earlier in the week. And then Kodala Necki, the offensive coordinator, Nicky, said he took a bunch of reps. That's all I'll say. He took a bunch of reps.
I don't trust it. Give me the Cats.
Emaw. Because I don't think Kansas is as good as everyone thinks either. Texas, Iowa State. Iowa State +7.5. I'll go first. Give me Hilton Magic, Jack Trice Stadium, the Bridge. Give me all of it there in Ames, Iowa, at night. Are they wearing the blackout? I'm sure they are at night, even though they already lost in it. Give me them to cover, Texas to win.
Interesting.
I think it'll be a close one like the TCU game. I think Texas just plays close games.
I've got a little something here from our Iowa State correspondent. It's an obscure Twitter account. You've probably never heard of it. It's at Cyclone Larry 69.
Okay, let's see what this guy says.
The last 5 teams ranked in the top 10 to show up in Ames for a night game went like this. Number 8, Oklahoma State, lost 21-24. Number 6, West Virginia, lost 14-30. Number 4, TCU, lost 7-14. Number 7, Baylor, won. Number 2, Oklahoma State, lost 31-37. I want the Cyclones' money line. There's no way Texas goes into Ames, goes into Jack Trice at night, and leaves with a dub. There's no way. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be low scoring. Iowa State's going to get it done.
Okay. They're 0-1 in night games this year in Ames.
Not against the top 10 team, though. This is their Super Bowl.
That was the top 22 game against Kansas. They lost 28-21.
Not enough juice there. Not a top 10 team. Texas on their way out. Matt Campbell owns Texas. He's like 5-2 or something in the last 7.
Okay.
Maybe that's a little bit inflated, but I trust the Cyclones here. They will not let me down.
So we're both taking Iowa State.
Yes, but I'm not hedging. I'm saying that they will win the game. I'm not saying that they're going to cover the 7.5.
So noted hedger, Kyle Jacobson, not hedging.
Why am I a noted hedger?
You've got the emotional hedge. That's just your deal.
Oh, I always emotionally hedge. Yeah. If I was emotionally hedging, I would be all over Texas.
Iowa State winning locks them into the title game, doesn't it? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some tiebreakers later in the show. We'll have to look at the Big 12 standings as well. I'll be honest, when we talk about the tiebreakers, I have no idea what's going on. So Kyle's going to talk about them. Let me ask you this. Oh, never mind. I deleted a bunch of apps and I'm still getting notifications from them, but I just figured it out. It's a different app that is giving me the notifications. All right, Texas Tech. UCF, Texas Tech. This game is now at 2.5 in favor of the Red Raiders. 2 5-5 programs. Last 5 games for UCF. Loss against Kansas, loss against Oklahoma, loss against West Virginia, win by 2 points against Cincinnati on the road, hammer, and I mean hammer, Oklahoma State on the road. Last 5 for Texas Tech, beat Baylor, lose to Kansas State, lose to BYU, disgusting, beat TCU, beat Kansas. Yes, Oklahoma State was at home. I didn't say it wasn't. What are your thoughts?
I looked down at my phone a little bit, and I came up, and you were just like listing teams, and I kind of missed everything.
I was just giving the last 5 games from both teams, but you're just picking the game 2.5.
Gotcha. Sadly, I must pick UCF.
Yeah,
I think their offense is way better than ours. Think our defense is a little bit better than theirs, but not by as much as their offense is better than ours. Home field matters. We've been really good at home. I think we've only lost 2 games, 2 Big 12 games in the last 2 years combined. Kansas State this year, Baylor last year. Would love for Joey to wrap up the home slate. What would that make us? 4-2 at home, 5-2 at home. And then last year we were 6-1 at home, I think. That'd be a really strong, I think, building block as he continues to grow this thing in Lubbock.
It'd also be 3 Big 12 wins in a row in 2 straight years.
Yeah, a lot on the line. I mean, bowl eligibility, winning conference record. A lot to play for. I hope I'm wrong. And like I said, I think that I think this game is a true toss-up, so I'm not saying like, oh, we can't win. But yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about facing their offense.
Do you have a score prediction?
Yeah, how's about UCF 38? That's a little high. How's about UCF 34? Texas Tech 28.
Okay.
34-28. Knights cover and win.
Okay. Kyle, Joey McGuire is 6-1 in November, according to Roy in the comment section. He lost his first game ever coaching in November, has not lost since in November. He lost to TCU last year. So he's undefeated at home in November. Not that that matters. But if you remember last year, Kyle, I had a patented score predicting matrix that I used every week. I've not done that this year. But I went back to my old friend, the scheduling matrix, which works better and better as the year goes on because you have more games to go up against. I've used the conference-only scoring matrix, and this game will finish 29-26 and a half. So I'm going to call it 27. Texas Tech is going to win this game 29-27, which unfortunately means that UCF will cover. But it is a victory for Texas Tech. So money line, Red Raiders. 29-27. So we round up in this house. You know what? We'll round down and say Texas Tech covers and wins. How about that?
Love it. I hope you're right. I promise I'm not picking against Tech every week as like a bit.
You kind of are.
I think the market
Are you going to triple play UCF?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I do that as a bit for sure, mostly as an emotional hedge.
What?
I think the market sometimes is slow to adjust to how good a team is, like TCU, an example of that last year. And I think slow to acknowledge how bad we are, which is why we continue to be favored after all these losses. Like, remember when West Virginia came out and we were favored by 6? I was like, what in the world are we thinking here? We're going to go on the road and beat somebody by 7? Like, I doubt that. I know that one weekend is only one data point, but like what UCF did to Oklahoma State, I thought they might actually come into like UCF -1 or something. And if that game was like the beginning of them figuring it out and turning it around, or if Cincinnati 2 weeks ago was the beginning, they barely beat Cincinnati, then they house Oklahoma State and they house us, then you go, okay, that's a 3-game sample size where they're clearly just on a insane upward trajectory. Whereas I feel like we've been pretty flat most of the year. Like,
well, you figured it out against TCU, and then you beat number 16 on the road.
Yeah, with a dismal offensive performance.
I'm just saying you might have figured out how to win.
And I'm just saying if we go 48 minutes and 21 seconds without scoring or with only scoring 3 points like we've done twice this year, UCF can hang 35 plus on us in that same time span.
If UCF scores 35, can Texas Tech win the game?
No.
You would take that as a loss?
Yeah. Here's what I think actually in terms of like play style, what needs to happen. Can we agree Tim DeRuyter great at making halftime adjustments, and our defense is usually better in the second half than it is in the first half by a noticeable margin?
Yes.
I know that we're not going to do this. I have no hope whatsoever. Play really, really, really slow in the first half. Run Taj, and then run the play clock down to 5 seconds, and then run Taj. Like, give UCF 3 possessions in the first half. Then let Tim DeRuyter cook at halftime, and then, like, let's play it out in the second half.
Yeah.
But if we're going to give UCF 14 possessions, which I'm sure we will because that's how we play, we can't help ourselves. And, like, they're going to do some damage offensively. They're going to get 400-plus yards on us and probably score a lot.
What if I said UCF scored 31? Is that a guaranteed dub?
I would ask who has the ball last.
Okay.
Because I think that's probably a one-possession game. And if it was 28-28 and they kicked a field goal to go up 31, or if we had the ball, down 31-27, like it's probably a who has it last kind of play for me.
Well, you only need 26 seconds
to get a field goal.
Yeah.
If we need a touchdown,
well, we
might need more.
That would take you to overtime.
31-27, we would need a touchdown.
Oh, I thought you said 31-28.
I said 28-28 the first time. I used two different. That was confusing.
I was going back to the first one.
Just making up a bunch of scores over here.
You know who doesn't make things up?
This YouTube commenter who says UCF is 2-5 this year when running fewer than 70 plays. But we don't play chess.
You'll get over 70 plays.
We don't play chess like that though.
No.
We should be looking at that and going, we should play this game as slow as possible. But we won't. We'll bang our heads against the wall, to borrow a phrase, and make sure UCF gets to run 85 or so.
You know who doesn't make up things?
Who's that?
Reckham Outdoors. Reckham Outdoors. They catch those fish, and they show them to you online. You can find them on Instagram, Reckham Outdoors, or online, ReckhamOutdoors.com. If you want to go fishing and you're in the coast of West Texas, you can step out into legendary Baffin Bay and do some wade fishing with Captain Preston Long, who is wheeling and dealing with Red Raiders right now on Twitter, Captain Preston Long. You can search for him. I should probably find his real handle. That's just what he goes by. I don't think that's his actual handle, but I could find that for you. DM us and I'll shoot him to you. Or find him on Instagram and probably get the same deals. But they're incredible deals. You go wade fishing out in the water, feeling nature, catch some beautiful fish, and get your picture on the Hall of Fame, in the Wall of Fame, right there on Instagram. It'll memory that'll last a lifetime. You ever go fishing, Kyle?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm like a big fisherman, but I've gone a couple times. I caught a stingray deep sea fishing in Florida one time.
Wow. The Steve Irwin killer.
Yeah, it might not have been the same one. I think it was before he died.
Ah, well, not the actual murderer, but same species.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that in Baffin Bay with Captain Preston Long on Reckham Outdoors. ReckhamOutdoors.com. Go find him. This is going to be a really short mailbag. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
You've got mail.
Mail time.
The mail's here. Come on.
I found these in my mailbag.
Well, it's time to reach into the old mailbag here.
Enjoy reading the fan mail. Don't read it all at once.
Any mail for me? You don't have a Tic Tac, do you?
Did I get any mail?
No.
Why not, honey?
Thomas says the mailbag is going to be shorter than the mailbag intro. It might be. I'm going to start with the weirdest question because I don't understand it, and if it's a joke, I don't get it. Would the Gauchos be willing to stop watching game film in the shower?
Yeah, I was hoping you knew. I don't understand the reference if that's an allusion to something.
Sorry, I don't watch game film in the shower. I don't have a setup capable of that. I just noticed how blue your eyes were today there, Kyle. Striking. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad would it be for Tech if A&M hired Traylor? 1. I think it'd be great for Tech if he was hired at A&M.
Why do you say that?
It's outside of the Big 12. Now, maybe in the future you're going after some of the same recruits after you've locked in a 5-star, but you're not generally in the same pool as A&M. Going at the cusp of guys. And there's plenty of guys in Texas to go after, so I don't think it kills a recruiting class to be recruiting against Traylor at A&M.
Yeah, I'll say like 4.
I mean, is it worse than him at UTSA? Sure. But it's way better than him being at Houston.
Or Baylor.
Or Arkansas. Oh, definitely Baylor.
I think it's about the same as Arkansas.
Yeah.
I would say like 3.5 or 4.
Yeah. I go under that. Maybe more than 1, but there were 8 zeros in the chat.
Because we are going after a bunch of 4-star Texas kids now.
Yeah.
And
I probably underrate that.
A&M is probably going after like higher end 4 stars and a bunch of 5 stars, and I guess just bribing them to go there.
You just don't play them.
Yeah, like it wouldn't. Yeah, but I could see you missing out on like a handful of 4 stars that you wanted if he's at A&M.
But I think any coach that goes there, you'd miss out on a handful of 4 stars because that coach is there.
Maybe, but I think Traylor would recruit more locally than other head coaches at A&M that would go nationally for high-end 4-star and 5-star types. And so I think like there's a legit, like you could be, like Micah Hudson's a good example, kind of, because he was a 5-star that everybody wanted. Yeah. But a high-end 4-star like him, Traylor's going to lean into the same high school connections Joey has. Whereas like some coaches would go to a program like A&M and recruit nationally. They'd be after guys from California, Florida, wherever. And then I would be less concerned that like we're fishing in the same pond.
How many days until Bill Belichick is named head coach at Texas A&M? Do we also anticipate newly fired Josh McDaniels to be the OC? Josh McDaniels goes to Alabama, right, for a coach rehab?
I could see that.
That's what Bill O'Brien did.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick won't coach after the Patriots, and he certainly won't go to college. Actually, yeah. Bill Belichick would be the kind of guy to get fired at the Patriots and then take somebody else to the Super Bowl at like 80 years old.
Belichick in college would not be a good fit.
No. What about a shower beer from the YouTube comment section?
Can you imagine Belichick doing like the uniform photo shoot with a 16-year-old on a visit?
No, he's not on the roundabout dancing like Brian Kelly. Do you drink shower beers?
I have.
I like a good shower beer. How many days? Oh, sorry, I just asked that one. How great of a fit would Matt Wells be at College Station?
I think they should consider it.
I think so too. What's the most egregious ref ball you've ever seen? Saints Vikings. No, Saints Rams. Was that the Vikings or the Rams?
It was the Rams.
Yeah, Saints Rams.
Most egregious one I ever saw was during Big 12 After Dark in Tucson, Arizona, when toward the end of the half, one Douglas Coleman picks off Khalil Tate close to midfield, like maybe on our own 40. But we have enough time to get a couple first downs and try a field goal before halftime. And as he earned the right to do by picking off the pass, he kind of celebrates a little bit by like just sort of standing near the sideline and eyeballing some Arizona guys. He finally decides to start jogging off the field toward our sideline, at which point Mike DeFee moves into Doug Coleman's path to stop him and grab him. And when Doug Coleman doesn't want to sit there and talk to Mike DeFee, he throws a 15-yard personal foul flag on us, moves us out of field goal range. Like, I get that some celebrations are over the top.
Yeah.
And refs need to insert themselves in the middle of like a fight or whatever.
Right. And like if they're going for a third pump.
But that was totally over with. He was jogging to the side. Like, it was done.
Yeah.
And Mike DeFee does the opposite of what he's supposed to do. He goes in and escalates the situation and then gets butthurt when Coleman doesn't want to sit there and say yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, whatever DeFee wanted to hear. That was the most Bush League example I can remember.
How funny would it be to hear a Lincoln Riley to Texas A&M announcement?
I guess pretty funny since I just...
About as funny as the USC one was.
If he was at USC for 2 years and then just left right after Caleb Williams left to go to A&M of all places, where it's just like A&M would totally be desperate enough to pay Lincoln Riley like $12 million a year to come coach there.
Yeah.
And Lincoln would be like, yeah, sure, like I'll come cash out and get another raise, go somewhere with like insane expectations, but also A&M is weird. Like they have this idea that they should be Alabama, but they will also pound their chest when they're like 8-4 in the SEC. They'll be like, "Oh, we play in the number one conference and we got 4th place in our division." So I don't know what to make of like what the reality of the expectations there is. Obviously, the donors will fire you, but like the fans, I feel like they already think that they're at the pinnacle of college football, and they have no reason to believe that. They've won one conference championship, and it was 25 years ago, like in my lifetime.
Right.
They won one BCS or New Year's Six Bowl, and it was during COVID. So, I don't know.
If a current major coach goes to A&M, would it be Dabo or Lincoln?
Dabo would be a really good fit at A&M. I think those two are perfect for each other.
Hickory dickory dock.
The donors, oh my God, the donors would wash Dabo's feet the first time he went to whatever kickoff breakfast and gave them the good old boy, Jesus wants our football team to win. They would be like, oh, Dabo. They'd build him a statue before he coached a game.
They'd give him 2 plaques.
Back to back.
Would you rather make the CFP 4 team and lose first round or win a New Year's Six Bowl against the top 8 team?
To me, the correct answer for Texas Tech is win a New Year's Six Bowl. For other programs, I would say make a playoff.
There's levels.
Because we've never won a BCS or New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think you take that step first so you can, put that notch in your bedpost, so to speak. And then move on to like, okay, now we want to make the playoff. But obviously the 14 playoff is over with after this year, so it's kind of a moot point.
Final one. You going to reject the premise of that one as well?
I do. Yeah.
All right, that's all I got. Final thoughts?
I would love to make the 14 playoff this year. I just think, you're kind of long odds here. So,
yeah.
You know what? I'm brave enough to say that. Sign me up for making the college football playoff this year and losing in the first round. I would take that right now versus rolling the dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I would take that. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
That'll do, donkey.
That should be enough. Is that your favorite Disney movie, Shrek?
No, probably not.
Is that why you chose Onion?
I just chose Onion because somebody DM'd us and told us to. I still don't know what that is.
Because the ogres are like onions.
Yeah.
They've got layers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the Shrek voice, but
You could do the Shrek voice.
I don't think I could. I've already told you the only impression I have in my bag is Shaggy.
You do a pretty good Shaggy.
Thank you. That's not Disney either, though. Is Pixar Disney? Oh, Shrek isn't even Disney. Oh, it's DreamWorks Animation. Right?
I will take your word for it.
All cartoons are Disney to me.
Hey, how many tabs do you have open on your phone? Like in Safari or whatever web browser you use?
I just closed them today.
All of them?
Yeah.
Do you want to guess how many I have open right now?
94.
80.
Wow.
Is that normal?
I would say generally, yeah, probably.
Okay.
I cleaned mine up today because I was like, what are we doing here? There was like 17 Bing image creator windows.
Oh. See, that's why I have so many. Is it's either stuff I intend to go back and read later but never do,
Yeah.
or stuff I use all the time, like to pay my credit card every month.
Yeah.
Or to make AI images.
I have an app.
But I usually keep it around like 30. And so that stuff is easy to find when I'm scrolling through, but I was just looking for the Norwegian proverbs. And then among 90, I was like, where is this?
How many tabs do you have open on your laptop?
Oh, at work, it's really bad. I have 2 windows open at work. One is for...
You don't use a bookmark bar?
I'm not going to... No. I'm not going to get down in the weeds. One is for like one portion of my work. The other's for a different portion of my work.
Sure.
At any given time, I could have probably like 30 open in each window.
See, I close mine out. I have 6 right now because I had stats up for this show, but
The fewest I ever have is like 6. Like I have a standing 6 that are always open.
just do the bookmark bar. You just have them right there. You don't have to have the windows open.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a bad idea, but I don't do that.
Do you know how? Are you asking for help?
I could probably figure it out, but it would take me longer than switching over to the tab in that
You just do it
moment.
once.
Now, collectively over the 5-10 years that I work there, I'm
That's
probably
like saying,
losing.
oh, that's going to pay for itself.
Well, some stuff does pay for itself.
Yeah. Boy math. People in the comments are saying, how is your phone still working? How many minutes does your battery life last?
I
You
don't.
got the brick charger that you carry around.
No, I left it in an Uber in Laramie.
You didn't get a new one?
I did, but it's a wimpy. It sucks.
Oh,
Lasts
you
like
gotta
one day.
You need to get the Anchor one that magnets to the back of your phone. Those are sweet.
Yeah, maybe. I don't notice any battery issues.
Yeah. Hey, it happens to everyone, man. You don't have to lie.
About battery issues.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
My only battery issues are when the OU fans and players are moving too quickly, and I can't hit them as accurately as I would like to.
With a gun like yours, that's surprising.
What?
With a gun like yours, that's surprising.
Yeah, no, I can hit them from 50 yards away, but they've got to hold still.
Okay.
The lazier a man is, the more he plans to do tomorrow.
It's a good one.
So to tie that into the game on Saturday, you need a win to get bowl eligible and to have a winning conference record. Don't leave it to chance. Don't put it off till UT. Just do it on Saturday. I guess that's my final thought too, is if you win this, talk about nothing to lose. Like beating UT bowl game wise would be like, do you go to the Cactus Bowl or the Frisco Bowl, or like it wouldn't matter. You couldn't lose bowl eligibility, but like everything to gain in the sense that you'd have scoreboard on them forever if you never play them again.
Yeah. And you could just ruin their season and not have an effect on yours.
Yeah. Like I think if you go in there 6-5, you're drawing up like crazy trick plays, dialing up insane blitzes.
Yeah.
It's a loose week at practice, even though everybody wants to win. Like you're motivated but loose.
Yeah.
if you go in 5-6, it's like our entire season is on the line against the best team we've played all year at their place. It's like a lot of pressure to.
Oh, hay is in the barn.
Yeah.
If you win this weekend.
Yeah.
I've got a final thought as well.
Okay.
Shout out Tony Bradford Jr. He's doing a turkey drive for the less fortunate. A drive-through turkey drive. He's going to give away a bunch of turkeys here in Lubbock. Shout out to Tony, the mayor. That's pretty cool. So that's my final thoughts.
Yeah, I think first off, shout out to Mayor Trey Payne. In no way is this a shot at him, but I think Mayor probably doesn't even scratch the surface of the impact Tony Bradford could have based on the character we've all witnessed. I think this is year 5 in Lubbock for Mr. Bradford.
I believe so.
Certainly destined for amazing things, whether that's on the field or off the field, and this is just kind of the latest example. And so excited to, whether he wants to be mayor or president or whatever else, he's going to crush it and make a great impact on the world. So proud that he's a Red Raider.
Wants to be a police chief.
Yep.
Mike wants to know, and this will be the final thing we talk about, the best name on the roster.
We, by the way, didn't discuss the tiebreaker scenario. We don't have to because
we can finish that
out. Best name on the roster.
Macho
Stevenson. That's a good one.
Is Chief Collins still on this roster?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Chief, man, he's got the red mullet. Chief. No?
Guess not.
What else? There's not really any. I guess Dingle's a funny name.
Yeah, Mike Dingle. Dadrian Taylor Demerson is the one that's probably like hardest for announcers to not trip up on, just because it's a lot of syllables and.
Rabbit.
Yeah, just call him Rabbit. He's got a cool nickname too.
It's pretty vanilla. I'm looking through the roster. Pretty vanilla names.
Sensei is a good nickname.
It's a great nickname. Yeah. Pretty vanilla roster. Raider Cup. Hut Graham. He's not here anymore. All right. That's all I got. Oh, unless you want to do the do you want me to read the tweet?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. All right, this is from Brett McMurphy. Now that we've already done final thoughts, we'll have to go back to him. This is us doing this tomorrow. We're lazy.
Oklahoma State alumnus Brett McMurphy.
Brett McMurphy, Oklahoma State alumnus, yes. Big 12 tiebreaker regarding step 1 of multiple team ties and conference tiebreaker procedure. In event of a multiple team tie, head-to-head wins takes precedence. If all the tied teams are not common opponents, the tied team that defeated each of the other tied teams earns championship berth. There have been no changes to any rules regarding the Big 12 football tiebreaker procedures, which were agreed upon prior to season and went into effect August of 2023. So if you play the better teams, you get preference on getting to the championship game because you played more teams at the top of the league. It's basically how I read that.
Sort of. If I was,
if the first step isn't, if there's more teams tied in the first step, that doesn't help, then the second step benefits the team who played the most best teams.
But if I were a bitter Kansas State or OU fan playing devil's advocate, I would say that, hey, we both had to play Texas, and Oklahoma State avoided Texas, so they had the easier schedule. Is what I would say if I were a Kansas State or OU fan.
Right, and in this instance, if all of them are tied, did Oklahoma State beat Texas? No.
They didn't play.
Oh, they didn't play them.
That's what I'm saying. Kansas State and OU would be like, well, the only reason we're tied and have the same number of losses as Oklahoma State is because we had to play Texas, who's really good. But if the Pokes played Texas, we wouldn't even be tied with them because they would lose to Texas.
So how I'm reading that is Oklahoma State would then be screwed because it would be Kansas State, OU, and Texas in the mix because Texas didn't play Texas.
No. I'm not disputing the rule. I'm just disputing that the logic behind it is that you're rewarding the team who's played the best teams because Oklahoma State would advance basically by way of not playing the best team in the conference, which is Texas.
Yeah. But would they? Because is that one it's needed to be clarified? Because the second half of that seems like if 3 teams are tied and one of them didn't play the best team, you just take that one out. Is that what it says? I guess I'm not comprehending what it said.
So I think here's what I think happened is certain members of the media started trying to interpret the rules on their own.
Very Trammell.
The rules were poorly written. Like there's a literal comma in the middle of a sentence that shouldn't be there. That if you remove the comma, it makes a lot more sense. But the media went ahead and published this and said, our Big 12 sources are telling us this is the interpretation of the rules. Everyone reads that article as fact. Then the people who wrote that article go back and say, well, we talked to more sources, and actually there was some confusion, and here's what the rules say. And so now you have 2 groups of people. Group A is saying, well, they changed the rules. Group B is saying, well, they clarified the rules. And those words don't mean the same thing, by the way. People seem to be trying to use them interchangeably. If they change the rules versus clarifying them, clarifying means the rule has always been the same. It was just misunderstood. That's what I think happened. And I think that just because a group of people misunderstood it so badly and thought they knew that it was one way, that when it was clarified for them, that doesn't mean that anything was changed. Like, if I don't understand math, and I come to you, Rob, and I say 3 + 3 is 5, and you say, no, actually it's 6, and I go, well, you changed up the math on me. You'd be like, well, no, I just corrected you. You were wrong in the first place. 3 + 3 is 6. I think that's more what happened. I think the Big 12 erred 2 ways. The first was by writing like a 3rd grader when they were publishing the rules. The second was allowing the media to publish alleged clarifications or tiebreaker scenarios that weren't accurate in the first place. The Big 12 should have come out immediately and said, like, this is like to remind everybody, these are the tiebreaker rules. If it ends that these 3 teams are tied, which, by the way, we've got 2 more conference games left, and these 3 teams probably aren't going to finish tied anyway, and this is all for naught. But they should have been the ones to set the record straight, not relying on media to do it through talking to Big 12 sources. So I think the conference could have handled it better. I don't think that they just straight up changed the rules mid-season. I think that anybody who actually believes that is maybe mistaken. I think a lot of people are framing it that way because they're mad and they want to make it out to be a conspiracy theory. So I think some are kind of using that terminology dishonestly. I think some actually believe that and they're mistaken. I think it was just sort of a really bad miscommunication from the jump on both sides.
What's even funnier is these media members probably are using source, but it's just the rulebook. Like our Big 12 sources, even if they asked somebody at the Big 12 what the tiebreaker was, they probably just forwarded them the rulebook section.
Could be. I was imagining that they, called the VP of bylaws or, whatever.
Talk to some intern.
Which is like, okay, that's where the Big 12 offices shouldn't be like, here's what it is to the media and let the media publish it. Like, you're the Big 12, just publish it yourself. You have a website. You have a Twitter account.
Yeah.
Like, you just tell us what it is. Don't rely on Barry Trammell or anybody else to get it right or wrong.
What you going to do?
But, imagine how screwed up this is going to get. If Iowa State beats Texas and all 5 of those teams have 2 losses, let's say Kansas State and Oklahoma State win this weekend, 5 of them would have 2 losses going into the last week. That is a mess. Now, Kansas State and Iowa State would play each other, so one of them would have to not be tied at the end. So we'll see. I have a feeling this is all going to shake out in a very clear way, and there will be no dispute. But if OU doesn't get in on a tiebreaker that their fans misunderstood, it'll be wild on Twitter.
Would you rather beat Texas to make them miss the Big 12 championship game or make them miss the playoff? Like, do you want Iowa State to beat Texas or not? Basically what I'm asking.
Oh, yeah, I want Iowa State to beat Texas.
Okay. So you don't want the opportunity to beat them at 10-1.
I mean, I'll beat them. I would like to beat them no matter what their record is.
10-1.
But no, I don't need to be the one to like wear the crown. Like, we're the ones who ruined your season.
Gotcha. Just beating them is good enough.
By the way, though, I will say something on OU fans, and more generally Texas and OU fans. The extent to which they wanted everybody else to kiss their behinds on the way out is truly astonishing to me. Like, this was a nasty divorce. Y'all conspired against us behind closed doors. You cost us who knows how many millions of dollars. After running the league in such a way that y'all did not allow us to expand and elevate programs like BYU earlier, you got your own network before everybody else. Like, you had all these advantages for so long, and then now they leave, and they're like, well, the Big 12 doesn't know what it's doing with these tiebreaker rules. Like, it's a joke of a conference. It's so poorly run. You two are the ones who have been running it for 25 years. Like, I agree, but not for the reasons you think. Like, it's poorly run because we let 4 original members, Nebraska, Colorado, Mizzou, and A&M leave because they didn't want to put up with y'all anymore. And then we took TCU instead of Louisville when we could have expanded the footprint. And then we didn't go to 12 teams by elevating BYU or somebody else. We didn't play a conference championship game when everybody else in the Power 5 was playing one. We slipped to 5th out of 5 Power 5 conferences, in my opinion, by the end of it, in terms of like perception and all that. That was because of y'all. And like, now that y'all have a little bit less influence because you're on your way out, and there's a typo, there's an extra comma in the rule book, it's like, oh, this conference doesn't know what it's doing. You lost straight up to Oklahoma State. There's no way you should be in the Big 12 championship game over them. It's like the fact that they expect to be, and they assume that somebody's conspiring against them to not go ahead of a team that beat them head to head.
Right.
It's just like, do y'all actually think this? Because if you do, you're crazy.
To me, the rule makes sense. If you don't play all the same teams, then the teams that played the best teams move on to the second round of the tiebreaker, and so Oklahoma State wouldn't move on to the second round of the tiebreaker.
Here's what I think it was supposed to say, and this makes sense for everybody. It's like, okay, you have Texas at the top, and then you have these 3 teams tied.
Right.
If it went in a circle, if OU beat Oklahoma State beat Kansas State, and Kansas State beat OU, everybody's 1-1 against each other, then you go to the next step, because like, we can't solve that. But in that 3-team pod, Oklahoma State is 2-0 against the other 2, and nobody else has a win against anybody else in that group of 3. So like, clearly Oklahoma State should go through. Now, did they word it correctly? Probably not. That's where I think the Big 12 should have done better. But like, the rule itself isn't bad. Oklahoma State, of those 3, if they finish tied, is clearly the team that deserves to go to the next round.
So the second half of the statement doesn't make a difference in this round of the execution because it's settled on stage 1.
That's my interpretation of the rule. Yeah.
Right. So you don't even have to read the second part because the first part solves it.
Yeah. It says something like, if not all of the tied teams have played each other, then da-da-da-da-da. And so anyway,
that's an if necessary.
But like, the idea, if you're an OU fan, you're like, well, how dare they not send us to the Big 12 championship game? It's like, why would we? You lost to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And like, this isn't the first time it's happened. They've expected all this other stuff on the way out. It's like, did you think that when you left in the dark of night without telling anybody that we were going to throw you a parade on the way out?
Like they wanted a Kobe parade.
Yeah, they wanted the Derek Jeter treatment. It was like, what do you think's going to happen
on the final season? They want a pair of boots in every city.
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy. A quick follow up on your question a few minutes ago about like keeping Texas out of the Big 12 championship game. My thought going into the season is like, I don't really care if OU wins the Big 12 because they've won it like 18 out of 25 or whatever. Like, whatever. They can win again. It wouldn't really bother me. Texas would kind of bother me because I would love for them to go out on this epic losing streak. But also, if they do get there and they like really pound their chest about it after like all the commentary about how we're too good for this conference, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, you should win the Big 12 once every 14 years. Like the last one was 2009, I think.
Yes.
So if they make it like one last time and win it, and they're like, oh, like we own you on the way out, I was like, okay, congrats on your first one in 14 years when you've had more talent and resources than everybody else that entire time. Like, you should have won. And I know Tech has 0, but we don't out-resource anybody.
I wasn't going to say it.
But like, I mean, that's the argument, in my opinion. It's like nobody's dogging Vandy for not winning the SEC once every 15 years. But like if Tennessee bolted for the Big Ten and won the SEC this year after not doing it for like 20 years, it'd be like kind of funny if they were trying to flex on Alabama or whoever. Like, oh, we own you right before we leave the conference. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. All right. That's really all I got. 90
Same.
minutes.
All right. Love y'all.